The sun may have set on another quest for championship glory as Zerkyie left the field in his wake. But here at the Yas Marina Circuit, we are racing and our 11 drivers look to vie for supremacy beneath the lights. With the checkers flag beckoning, our drivers take to the Yas Marina Circuit and battle it out for pole. Curtis Chaos will not, though, as he is, retired from the session. Slick will not improve his provisional starting place of P3. He has invalidated his final effort. DC, though, already a pole sitter this season. He looks to make it, or he looks to add to his tally, and he improves by 3/1000ths through the first sector. Rico, who currently sits on the front row alongside DC, is looking to take the initiative from the Alfa Romeo. Like I said, Slick is not going to be improving. Pudge Dog has found nearly half a second through the first two sectors. This could put him in a really strong place for possibly a top three, maybe even a front row start. And when Bozy has crossed the line in the Alpha Tauri, he will start the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix from a best of P7. Axel improves to P5. Pudge Dog's now going to round the final corner in the Haas, and he climbs to P3. What a mighty effort there from Pudge Dog, and he is dispensed of his teammate. Rico then in the McLaren on debut rounds the final corner and provisionally steals provisional pole from underneath the nose of DC. How does the Alfa Romeo respond? A last-ditch effort is enough to earn him pole position for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix by 49 milliseconds. Razor-sharp margins here in Yas Marina, and the Alfa Romeo withstood it to take his second pole position of the season, following on from his pole lap around the Red Bull Ring a few weeks back. He will start this Grand Prix from the very front, with Rico keeping him close for company. McLaren on the front row here in Yas Marina. It is their best, or equals their best, qualifying results so far this season, paralleling Gupta's efforts back in Kota. But we joined the action late, but we saw enough of it to know that we have one thrilling race ahead of us. So then we have DC starting the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix from pole position ahead of Rico. Then we have the two Hasses locking out the second row ahead of Jamie, Axel, Barney Dog, and Winnie Bozy, Curtis Chaos Revokes, and Stephen. And you can see there that the 11 drivers separated by just 1.5 seconds. The front row separated by half a tenth. It's going to be indicative, we hope, of one thrilling event. Right then, we have 11 drivers who will hopefully not be readying up. We have 11 drivers all looking for race-winning glory here at Yas Marina, a circuit that has been the centre, the epicenter of drama through the years, championship deciding drama, no less. But as we inch ever closer to the climax of Formula Premiere in Season 5, our field look to install excitement and glory. 29 lap Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, 29, 28. I'm sure it's 29. Will be enough for the drivers to optimise their potential, they will hope. This track, typically a one-stop, may enter the realms of a two-stop, but that is very much dependent on cautions and safety car interventions, which are not too infrequent around Yas Marina, but are not as common as they are in Azerbaijan or Singapore. This circuit, of course, brought to the Formula One circus back in 2009 and has been a permanent fixture in Formula One ever since, remodified in 2021 ahead of that epic championship finale. 2 DRS zones which very much encourage overtaking. One running between turns 5 and 6, the other between turns 7 and 9. It's tight, it's twisty, and it's tumultuous too. Formula Premiere, which has seen championship also decided on this tarmac. Zerkyie, of course, last season, grabbing his first Formula Premiere crown. Of course, he's not racing today, having sewn up the championship last week at the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. So then, I think that is just some of the facts and stats for this event. Like I said, so much to be uncovered in the Grand Prix ahead. There's no formation lap. We will be going straight to the 5 red lights and the start of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Let's see. The drivers are inching ever closer to the start of this Grand Prix. Oh wow, a small shower, I've been told, has been predicted for the beginning of a small shower around Abu Dhabi. We did have spots of rain back in the 2018 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, but nothing to warrant wet tyres. But could this really be happening? It would be mind-numbing if we delve into that kind of realm. So we have the heavens above looking down. We have 11 drivers vying for supremacy, and here at Yas Marina, we go from the lights to the action. Rico on debut looking to tussle with DC going into the first corner. He is going to slot in behind. I think, wow, Slick's had a poor start. He is dropped behind Jamie, but it's the Alfa Romeo that leads going into the first few corners ahead of Rico. Then comes Pujdog, Jamie, Slick, and when Boozy and the Alpha Tauri on the medium compound tyres is bursting into life on this first lap. A brief moment of contact there with Slick. Going into turn 5, the Haas prevails and sails through. But Axel is now on the Alpha Tauri's case. Down this long back straight, heading towards turn 6. The Mercedes now looking for a move on the Haas as well. Going into turn 6, the Haas will keep him at bay. Axel and Mwene Boozy now going side by side with the Alpha Tauri, grabbing the place, but it's Rico that now leads the race. He's taken the lead from DC, going down the last straight. The Alfa Romeo looking to fight back, going into turn 9. But for the moment, the McLaren leads this race. He was denied pole position by half a tenth in qualifying, but he is rejuvenated, he is regrouped, and he rebels out in the lead. You can see the big winners and losers from this opening lap. Stephen is running at the tail of the pack and 6 seconds behind Curtis Chaos, who himself has not had the greatest of starts. But Rico leads DC. Both of these drivers are on the hard compound tyres. So too the drivers in 3rd and 4th who are going side by side. Jamie just about inching ahead. And it's not common that you see a move being made into the first corner, but Jamie with such aggression and such precision grants himself a place on the rostrum. Right, DC looking to fight back against the McLaren of Rico. Getting in the McLaren slipstream, heading towards the chicane. Is Rico going to defend the place? No, because DC backs out of the move before they head into the hairpin, looking to preserve some ERS, I'd imagine, which he can deploy later on in the race. The pair of them, a brief squabble with the rear of their cars coming through the exit of the hairpin. Slick is now passing his teammate. Pudge Dog has had one nightmare lap in which he has been relegated from third down to fifth. And that poignant shade of white, which was vivid on lap one, dwindles and despairs. Still, DC remains in the wheel tracks of Rico as they head through the tight and twisty final sector of this Yas Marina Circuit, modified, of course, for the 2021 Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. It encourages drivers to file in behind one another and very much encourages better racing overall. DRS now enabled on lap 3 of 29. DC should be able to utilise it off of the exit of turn 5. I don't think Rico's going to be able to shrug him off through then the exit of turn 5. The Alfa Romeo laying down the throttle. Rico looking to gain every single metre he possibly can, but it's not going to be enough, it seems, because with the aid of DRS, the Alfa Romeo bursts back onto the scene and takes over the reins out in front. Going into the chicane, the McLaren will want to stick with DC, and can he get a promising exit? Somewhat. He will have DRS heading towards turn 9. The Alfa Romeo will look to defend that inside line. Here comes the McLaren heading towards turn 9, around the outside and back out in front. It is to the nail. It is wheel to wheel. The leading pair treating us to one tumultuous battle for the race lead. Meanwhile, Pudge Dog was engaged in battle with M1A Boozy in the battle for 5th and 6th. Pudge Dog, having started in the top 3, has just not had the start that he would have wanted. Right, DRS will be available to DC on this lap as it was the last. But Rico still looking to keep him at bay, but the rear of that McLaren shrugging through the exits of turn 5. The Alfa Romeo sensing, smelling an opportunity of the race lead once more, but will slot in behind the McLaren. Reluctant to make a move. He wants that DRS heading towards turn 9. And with an exit like that, the McLaren is truly vulnerable. Rico, is he going to go defensive? No. The Alfa Romeo throws a shape to the inside. The McLaren relegated to 2nd place. Jamie's not close enough to tempt a move ahead of the McLaren. But DC regaining his race lead. And Rico, once more, having to settle in the turbulent air behind the Alfa. Two race leaders will wheel to wheel for 2 laps. Can Rico return the compliment? It's not really a compliment, as Barney Dog has now crashed out of this race. Through the exit of the final corner, heading down the start-finish straight, the Williams becomes the first casualty of this race. The intervention of the safety car then has been called, and that means the drivers will stack up amongst one another, and it means for Stephen he can make a cheap pit stop, which will certainly allow him to re-emerge amongst the pack. So then, lap 5 of 29, that's all it took for the first safety car of this race. Barney Dog out in the opening chapters of this race. And the 10 drivers will stack up amongst one another and venture us into the next phase of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Who's going to take the opportunity to pit? We see Mwene Boozy, Revokes, Curtis Chaos and Stephen all on the mediums who sense they want to pit. DC will, Rico won't, Jammy won't, Slick will, Fudgedog will remain out on track, and Mwene Boozy will also remain out on track. Axel and Revokes also, Curtis Chaos 2. Wow then, only Slick and DC making their pit stops. The pair of them pitting to the medium compound tyres. They will be racy at this safety car restart. They will not lose anywhere near as much time due to pitting whilst their rivals are going so slowly in a queue behind the Aston Martin safety car. But, of course, they have relinquished a lot of track position, and particularly for DC, who has dropped from 1st down to 8th. He will need to utilise the youthfulness and grip from his tyres. Right then, so you can see the field amongst one another. On lap 6 of 29, the safety car doesn't seem to be coming into the pits on this lap, so we will remain behind the safety car for another tour. Oh no, the safety car will be coming in at the conclusion of this lap then. A late call by the race stewards. That means Rico will choose when to get us back underway here in Yas Marina. No overtaking until the start-finish line. It is Rico's prerogative though when to lay down the throttle. He led for the first couple of laps. He was then eclipsed by DC, but now he has his turn once more to run out in front. Jammy, it's hot on his heels as on lap 7 of 29, the action is installed once more here in Yas Marina. No driver, it seems, is close enough to chance a move into the first couple of corners. On board though with DC, who will almost impetuously want to make a move on Curtis Chaos, almost seizing the track through the kinks of turn 2 and 3, but looking for that inside line on the Williams going into turn 5. The Mercedes ahead of the boats sailing out wide, and DC snatching 2 places instantaneously there. What savvy, what silky racecraft that was from the Alfa Romeo. But Revokes is closing back in on him, heading towards turn 6. The Alfa Romeo just outbreaks him around the outside and will keep that 6th place. Fudgedog and Mwene Boozy and Axel are almost going to run 3 wide going into turn 9. What an awesome sight, what awesome racing between these 3. But for the moment, Fudgedog comes out on top. Axel battling past Mwene Boozy, but they will remain throat to throat going into this final third of the track, and then there is contact between the 2. The Alpha Tauri somehow avoiding the wall, but dropping down into 9th place. He chanced it all by wanting to retain his place, but it fell away dejectingly as DC making a move into the final corner. That now has Axel between himself and arguably his race rival at the present moment, Slick. Going into turn 16 where you don't often see moves, the Alfa Romeo muscling his way past Slick with a dose of understeer beneath the rear wing of Axel. Heading in towards turn 5, DC chancing a move on Slick's teammate Fudgedog, and opportunistically he will steal that final podium place. Here comes Jamie now. He's launching an assault for the race lead on lap 8 of 29, drawing side by side with the McLaren. Rico trying to break to the outside. Oh, the briefest of contacts there between the two. And then the Aston Martin dropping the rear of the car. That allows Rico to sail away down this straight. But the Aston Martin is asking questions and Rico is having to look on the defensive. And the two Hasses swapping positions going into turn 9. Pudgedog knowing that Slick is on the quicker tyres and is in the more smooth mood right now. And it means once more that Slick and DC are separated by just one place out on the track. Curtis Chaos has gone for a spin through the exit to turn 9. Slick, it must be said, has a time penalty, I believe, for exceeding track limits, which definitely is not what he needs so early on in this race. And it means he is put at odds with those around him who have not committed numerous offences when it comes to track limits. DC exploring different lines then through turns 2 and 3, looking for that inside line. Away past Jamie has come about and it is seized by the Alfa Romeo. Ruthless. Absolutely ruthless here from DC, and Rico trying to break the toe. This was the battle for the race lead. Just laps into this race. It's the battle for the race lead once more, but it's DC on younger, more grippy tyres. And it's the McLaren who may just have to relinquish his advantage through the exit of turn 7, through the kink of turn 8. The McLaren looking to hold off DC, but the Alfa Romeo with verve, with vigour, and with victory in his sights, seizes back one majestic race advantage with such ruthless, such rigorous racecraft. He has burst and he has bowed to his own brilliance. Rico then having to settle for P2 at the moment. Jamie though within half a second of the McLaren. Slick is keeping the Aston Martin honest as well, but DC setting the quickest lap of the race thus far, having gained a couple of places. All Jamie with a dose of understeer going through turns 2 and turns 3, and I think Slick is looking to mount a charge going into turn 5. No, the Aston Martin braking miraculously late to the inside. What emboldened and elegant racecraft there from the Aston Martin. And Rico, after losing the place to Jamie, is going to lose another one to Slick. What a beautiful overtake that was there from the Aston Martin, but he has Slick now on his case through the exit of the chicane. With the aid of DRS heading towards turn 9, the Aston Martin is wary of the threat. Slick to the inside of turn 9 will try and resist the Aston Martin, or can he? Because Jamie hanging it around the outside. These two throat to throat going into the final sector, and the Aston Martin just has to acquiesce the place in the end. With grip and groove, the Haas displaces Jamie and sails up into the top 2. Take a breath. Take a breath. What a rip-roaring few laps that was, but it's not over just yet because Rico is still within half a second of Jamie. The battle now for the final place on the podium as opposed to the race lead just a few tours ago. Of course, Slick's penalty will drop him provisionally behind these two, but for the moment, it is for third and fourth between those two, and Mwene Boozy is out of the race as well. So the AlphaTauri becomes the second loss of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. There has been nothing from race control just yet. Pudgedog struggling with the rear of the car through the chicane. Stephen in the Alpine will not waste any time whatsoever and dispenses of the Haas. Pudgedog, it just does not get any easier, does it? It's Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Meanwhile, out in front, DC is over 3 seconds clear of Slick. He has not won yet in Formula Premier. He has come desperately close on a tally of occasions. But here at Yas Marina, could the lights be finally shining on him? Of course, over half of the Grand Prix still to run, but it's looking good. It is looking oh so good for the Alfa Romeo. Rico still within DRS of Jamie, but crucially, the Aston Martin is not within a second of Slick ahead. That means Jamie will not have DRS, which he could have used to nullify the threats from the McLaren behind. It may just be a gripping fight for third place. Rico closing in, heading towards turn 6, where we saw Nico Rosberg make a move on Max Verstappen as he chanced and seals title glory back in 2016. Rico is not close enough to really trouble Jamie as of yet. What about now, heading towards turn 9? Once more he has DRS. He looks to get within the Aston Martin slipstream, and he closes and closes and closes in yet more. He's just not close enough going into turn 9. Stephen was more than close enough to excel going into turn 9, and the Alpine now up into the top 5. What a great return this is for Stephen on debut here in Formula Premier after the best qualifying, it must be said. Also not the best first lap in which he dropped way behind the field. That safety car intervention has given him reprieve and hope in this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Rico is as close as he has been in the last couple of laps, it must be said. If he can stick with the Aston Martin through this first sector, he is going to have such a drive. Heading off of the exit of turn 5, descending downhill then into the hairpin. And Rico ponders. He questions. And he looks to take back a rostrum place. The rear end stepping out through the exit of turn 5. But closing in and rapidly down the long back straight. The Aston Martin goes to the inside. Rico battles past and Rico wriggles through. Effervescent orange displacing the green machine. But does Jamie have a response then heading towards turn 9? It doesn't seem so. The McLaren with great drive coming off of the chicane. And Jamie, at least for now, is going to have to settle for 4th place. Axel, Stephen and Pudge still amongst one another. Axel has regained a place then on the Alpine. Meanwhile, Revokes and Curtis Kelso just driving a race of their own at this point. Sorry about that one and all, but Jamie then in the Aston Martin is going to come into the pits to trigger the undercut on Rico, which is going to be ruined as the safety car has been deployed. Revokes is now out of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the second intervention of the safety car. We are now down to 8 drivers and Revokes. It was not the most promising of races for him. But whatever the promise, in whichever quantity, it evaporates here in Yas Marina at the halfway stage of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. So then I talked about how safety cars aren't infrequent around this circuit, but they're not the most rare thing. And you can see that through the first in the first half of the race, we've had 2 separate safety car interventions. What does DC do? Is he going to come into the pits? Yes, he does. Surely Slick will as well. 1, to get rid of his time penalty, and 2, because that will pretty much put him back into file amongst the pack. Rico comes into the pit, so too does Excel, but Jamie is going to be the big loser in this. He tried to trigger the undercut on Rico. It is not going to work. In serving his time penalty, Slick has been relegated down to P3. Rico then back up to the top two. Jamie, though, at such a reduced speed. Oh, this is going to be really unfortunate for him. Slick, does he have another penalty? I wonder then why Slick has rejoined this race behind Rico. Well, maybe he has another time penalty to be served. Nonetheless, Slick down to P3, and with a time penalty which the two ahead do not have, the chances of a first race victory this season ebb away from the Haas driver. So then, 3 drivers already out of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. You can see here Stephen, after starting from last, is firmly into the top 5 when you consider the penalties that will have to be served by Slick and Axel. Pujdog, a big loser in this race alongside the 3 retirees so far. But DC and Rico, who started from the front row, still run first and second amidst all the mayhem and the anarchy here in Yas Marina. Look at that. 6 different teams in the top 6. What a treat. 2 drivers within that top 6 on debut here in Formula Premier, Rico and Stephen, who have, if solid isn't the right word, then I don't know what is, rapid perhaps, to have that maturity and consistency on debut here in a racing division like this is indicative of one's sheer quality and innate ability, for which they are displaying here on this Yas Marina tarmac. I reckon then the safety car may be peeling off into the pits at the conclusion of this tour. DC, who hasn't actually led a safety car restart today, Rico led the first. So DC is going to have an experience and a responsibility, it must be said, for which he has not held. He has been so good in Formula Premier this season. When he has raced, that is, only competed in 4 Grand Prix. But he scored a podium in each of his first 2 races. He took pole around Austria. And through the sprints in the Grand Prix, it just never materialised. But in Abu Dhabi, the Alfa Romeo reaches out. But not if the McLaren can prize it from him. We will have 13 laps to the checkered flag, 13 engrossing tours to the finish. Every driver in the field is looking for their first victory of the season. The top 2 looking for their first victory in Formula Premier. We're moments away then from the green flag, and the action will be upon us once more. DC looking and chancing the right moment to put down the power. And as they inch towards the final corner, away he goes. Rico looking to keep in contention as they head down the start-finish straight. Stephen closing in on Axel. Is he going to be close enough to shuffle past going into the first turn? No. What about back out in front? Rico about half a second behind DC. He's not been dropped in the way that DC would have liked him to, but he's not under severe pressure right now. We'll see how powerful, pure slipstream will be as the drivers head towards turn 6, the McLaren, with great traction. But Slick in behind has an interest of second place. The McLaren closing in, and the McLaren breezing past the Alfa Romeo. As they head towards the chicane, the McLaren bolted down that straight. He left the Alfa Romeo for dust. And one classic team in Formula One is looking for a win on Abu Dhabi tarmac, for which it has not enjoyed since 2011. DC looking to keep in contention, but the straight line speed of Rico was extraordinary. It really was. We talked about initially how DC wasn't under immense pressure. Well, he was swept past and eaten alive on the run towards turn 6. And I'm sure he will want to seize it back instantly as they head towards lap 18 of 29. Rico with the speediest tour of this Grand Prix thus far, which will be expected as he is on young tyres and is also riding a lighter car than he was at the start of this race, with all the fuel that is being burned. Right, through turn 5 once more. The McLaren struggling, limping perhaps through the apex of the corner, and he's looking to break the toe from DC, who looks to respond vigorously, heading towards turn 6. Rico still ahead. The Alfa Romeo inching ever closer through the chicane. The Alfa Romeo plotting and spotting an opportunity back past. Slick again is not too far away from the leading pair. With a bit of deployment from the ERS battery and with the use of the slipstream, it is not enough still for DC to slot past. But the McLaren running out wide, the Alfa Romeo trying as he might to spot a gap, but it's not coming about. The McLaren so staunch, so solid in his defence. Between the walls of the Yas Marina Circuit, it is a tumult of drama. Founded upon in the opening laps, lasting deep into this Grand Prix. Towards turn 5 once more. DC is not going to spot an opportunity, but he will have the aid of DRS and the rear end of the McLaren stepping out, drifting away from him. The blood red Alfa Romeo sensing blood. The grip of the race lead for Rico seeps away as the aid of DRS is enough for DC to claw back the advantage going into the chicane, but he goes in quite deep. Rico has a chance to battle back past. Slick is not losing sight of this battle still, but the McLaren closing in, reaching out for the race lead once more, heading towards turn 9, braking to the outside. A tumult of drama, effervescent drama here at Yas Marina. The top two going hammer and tong, going throat to throat. This place earmarks drama, fireworks and fantasy. And here in Formula Premiere, it is nothing short of that. Rico resists the Alfa Romeo still. With 10 more tours to go, could the McLaren just be starting to seize the initiative on speed and racecraft in these past few laps? He has an answer to every single question DC asks. Lap upon lap, battle upon battle, this race gets that more engrossing, and it could yet more as the Alfa Romeo thinks about closing and going into the chicane, but again will slot in behind. DC wants the DRS heading towards turn 9. The McLaren scuffles away off of the exit of the chicane through the kink of turn 8, and DC is just not close enough to mount a charge. Pujdog closing in on Curtis Chaos, heading towards turn 9. The Williams is not going to defend that inside line, and Pujdog will happily seize it. Oh, Rico has used so much more battery than DC and Slick. That could be why the Alfa Romeo has not shown his true potential in terms of speed and just straight line performance, because he's been reserving that DRS a little bit more. 30% more is what DC holds, and this could prove troublesome for Rico. Lap 21 of 29. The McLaren has track position. DC is not dwindling away, and still he's reluctant to actually use ERS going down this straight. But with the aid of DRS, he will inch ahead going into the chicane. The McLaren will force him to the outside, and they all come so close to contact coming off of the exit. But the McLaren shrugging when it puts down the power, but still is not losing sight of DC, choosing that outside line. Slick in the fight as well, perhaps 3 wide going into turn 9. The Alfa Romeo muscling his way back past to the inside of Slick, who is not letting go in this battle. DC going through the final sector. Oh, he's not close enough, he's not far enough alongside going into turn 12 to really have enough claim to the corner, nor a place out in front. But they are nose to tail still. Axel in the fight as well. A track limits violation for either of the front two could be indelibly race significant. Or could just be indelible. Oh, DC actually struggling through the first corner, but Slick with a twitch himself. He's closing in now on the Alfa Romeo. He's going to chance and tease and seize the inside line. And with it, second place. A setback for the Alfa Romeo. Slick seeks on. Slick with the lead inside. Heading towards turn 6. He thinks about braking to the inside. The McLaren holds it still. But all of a sudden, the Haas shines bright. The Haas closes in, and with the aid of DRS, he races towards turn 9 with the McLaren rear wing that much larger. And round the outside of turn 9, it's razor sharp, it's rigorous. And for the Haas driver, it's side by side with the McLaren driver. Awesome! Absolutely awesome from Slick. Pinpoint! And delightful there as Rico makes contact with DC and slipped in behind the Alfa Romeo. Axel is now on the charge, going through the final couple of corners. The yellow flag's out because of Jamie, who is now spun. But all of a sudden, Rico's out of the fight. In the battle for the race lead, Slick leads DC. DC, though, is without a time penalty. That could prove just so pivotal. The exit of turn 5. And down the straight once more, DC and Slick in his sights. At this point, the move is not critical for DC. I'm sure he'd love to win the race out on the road, but he's not taking any risks, it seems, right now, as Axel blasts past the McLaren now. And Rico, oh, this is going to be close at the moment in his quest for a rostrum place, because Slick, well, I say rostrum place, for a place in the top 2, because Slick is inching towards a 3-second advantage over the McLaren. Yeah, it is a 3-second penalty for the Haas driver. DC is still the favourite. Rico, he just needs to stick with the Mercedes. He may have used so much potential from those tyres in battling away with Slick and DC, and it may just be coming to bite him. Such raw and organic speed has been displayed from the McLaren thus far. But as the day turns to night here in Yas Marina, a dream progressively fades. Right, DC once more has DRS on slick. He's not using as much battery as he he could have done, but he's not going to make a move going into the chicane. The rear end stepping out though of the hat, and with a better exit, and with sharp teeth pinning upon one another, DC with an inside chance. May have thought about taking the lead, but still slots in behind. Rico now making up a place on Axel, and Rico back up to the top three out on the road. This just never stops, does it? It's undulating and it's blistering. It really is here at Yas Marina. The action is just not fading. Let's hope it does not stop. Right then, so Rico is just about within 3 seconds of slick. So for the moment, he has second place in his sights, but he cannot afford to lose any more time, or he would be out of that certain fight. DC also has way more battery to spare than slick. And DC in that Alfa Romeo is just exuding his maturity. Let's see if he looks to make a move on this lap. On lap 25 of 29. No, he will remain behind the Haas. Going into the chicane as Axel displaces Rico and claws back third. Through the kink of turn 8. With an exuberant crowd cheering on the stallions here in Abu Dhabi. It is still DC behind slick. It's Rico again ahead of Axel. And this ding-dong battle also has no ending. And Steven making a place on Curtis Chaos. The Williams looking for a response to the inside of turn 9, but he's watched out wide with a dose of understeer. And has to accept his fate for the moment outside the top 5. The favourite, the indisputable favourite at the moment is DC, within half a second of our race leader, and with no time penalty to his name for the moment. Each of these two drivers looking for their first win of the season, but for DC it would be especially poignant, as it would be his first journey to the top step of the podium here in Formula Premiere. Axel got past Rico. The McLaren though looking to fight back. Axel trying to break the toe then as they head towards turn 9. The McLaren to the outside then, spotting an opportunity, and around he goes back up to P3. And again that battle does not lose breath as Steven chances to move to the inside of Curtis Chaos, and Jamie has an interest as well. But still, it's the Williams ahead of the Alpine, ahead of the Aston Martin. Three more to go then, here in Abu Dhabi. For round 9 of the season, and as the season draws ever closer to its conclusion, you look back on some memorable moments. This has been one memorable race. Evocative in all its elegance and glory. And for DC, he hopes that very description will be befitting for him as he closes in on slick, heading towards turn 6, but still opts to remain in behind. McLaren of Rico late on the brakes going into turn 6 and heading through turn 7, but Axel struggling off of the corner, and in a gasp, Rico back ahead of the Mercedes. tight and twisty section. DC dancing with the rear. He could really do without any gut-wrenching moments as Jamie has had a spin. I think he's avoided damage, but just about. He's down in P8 and, wow, the race has just not fallen before him. Into turn 5 once more. DC still reserving that ERS deployment. It seems like he's going to go all guns blazing on the final lap, or is he going to utilise it now? Because look how much he closes in on Slick, heading down this straight with turn 6 in sight. With the lead much thirsted, the Alfa Romeo breaking to the inside, and on the penultimate tour, battles to the front. Slick looking for a way back past, but the dream starts to fade. It looks like it could be the Alfa Romeo's night. It looks like glory at last could be landing by DC's name. He closes in. Rico closes in on a maiden podium in Formula Premier in his very first race in the series. He may just be half a second ahead of the man in 4th place, but he is without a time penalty for which Axel holds. Stephen closing in on Curtis Chaos, but he has a time penalty, so you feel like that battle may be nearing its conclusion. But on the final tour of this Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, the Alfa Romeo reaches out. Through turn 5, which has been the appetizer to so many battles in this race. Battles that have lasted the endurance of this race. From the green flag to within a breath of the checkered. And as his rear end dances away, he knows how close he is to race-winning glory. He knows that he is going to resist Slick. And he knows that this Abu Dhabi stage is his. His razor-sharp racecraft has penetrated those who yearned to defeat him. A weight that has mounted and lasted longer than he would have ever wanted to. But that thirst, that dying thirst for race-winning glory is about to adorn his name. Such ruthlessness, such rigour, and at last, such a feeling for DC. He comes out on top here at Yas Marina. He dispenses of Slick. He defeats Rico. And for the first time in Formula Premier, it is DC's time to dance in the dark. Slick second and Rico third. A befitting podium of the drama they have installed for us. But moments have come and moments have gone for the Alfa Romeo, but not tonight. Not tonight. He wins the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix in fine tune. And there he is, slipping on the podium. There was no slips in his mission today. From pole to race victory, and a feeling that may just endure a racing legacy. He sprays the bubbly stuff on the rostrum, and that feeling of becoming a race winner is finally his. Let's, in fact, talk to him. Oh, God, that's going to be a nightmare to speak to him, actually. Because he's not an X. He's not Xbox. Ugh. That's helpful. In fact, let's just speak to Slick first. Let's speak to Slick and hopefully DC can join us. We'll have to see. Let's see if he can join us. Just give us a few moments. We'll see. Right, in fact, I don't think it's. Don't think Slick is going to join us, fortunately. Yeah. Oh. This is going to be a nightmare. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. We'll have to park the stream for today as we will conduct the interviews on Discord. But my oh my, what a treat that was! What a race! And what a moment for DC. Finally, a race winner in Formula Premier. A moment richly deserved for him. Well, that's it for tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Breathe and breathe again, because that was quite something. And make sure you join us next week for when we go racing around the Marina Bay Circuit in yet another night race. Season 5 is coming close to its conclusion, but there is still much more drama to come. And make sure you don't miss it. Make sure you return for when we return here at Formula Premier. And until next time, hasta la vista.